Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Cutting Through the Bullshit. I am your host, Dr. Stephanie Snyder, and I am a high performance mentor. Through my unique blend of strategy, mindset, and intuition, I help men and women to cut through the BS in order to create the life and business they desire. So today we're going to talk about this fun, I guess it's the saying in our house, kind of our motto for our family. And to give you just a little bit of backstory, my husband served in the Navy for 20 years, and the last half of his career he served with Special Forces. I won't dive into any of the details because, well, quite frankly, I don't know half of them. But he came home after one training exercise or whatever, and he said, "I got to tell you this story." And he said, we were doing this exercise with some new recruits, and one of the senior officers, whatever you want to call them, the new recruits were going through this new exercise, and at the end of the exercise, this senior officer, again, don't know the official titles, but a senior person, right, says to all of these new people, "Whatever you're doing, do better." And it was just funny because it was like, when he told the story, it was almost like this person didn't know how to kind of give it a compliment without being critical, right? And again, I don't know the whole backstory, but nevertheless, this statement has become kind of the motto of our family, where if our kids do something asinine or whatever, we'll look at them and go, "Whatever you're doing, do better." And not in this kind of pressure mounted, "my kids aren't good enough" kind of a thing, but more as in like, I know they're not tapping into their full potential. And that's actually what we're going to get into today, because I was listening to, what was I listening to? I don't even remember, but it was jogging this idea of not tapping into our full potential and not showing up fully as we possibly could. And so it just makes me kind of giggle about this, "whatever you're doing, do better," because the truth is, we always have opportunity for growth. We can always be better or do better in something, but most of us are just kind of happy being stagnant. And if you're happy being stagnant, this conversation is probably not for you. This podcast is probably not for you, so you're probably not listening to this. But if you are somebody who is seeking that next level, seeking more growth, this motto could very well become kind of yours as well, right? And again, I don't say this in the sense that you're not doing a great job as you are, right? But there is always room for improvement. Always, right? And sometimes it takes somebody else going first for you to see that you could actually improve in a specific area, right? So yesterday, I went to this place called the Stretch Lab. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it before, but essentially it is like a personalized stretch session where they stretch you and move all your muscles in all these other different ways, right? It was actually really kind of a cool experience. And what was interesting was, there's, as flexible as I am and as great as now, okay, let me preface this, right? This year, my health is in a really great spot, right? There's nothing that I have to kind of overhaul. There's no crazy thing that I want to do. My health is actually in a really great place, but I know that there's always room for fine tuning and tweaking. And one area that I know that I'm not doing great at is my yoga and my stretching, right? I am not great at warming up and stretching. I like to just go for my run. I'm not great at warming up and stretching before I go for a bike or get in the pool or whatever, right? I just go and I do the thing. And if something starts to kind of work itself out, I'll stop and stretch it in the middle of whatever it is I'm doing typically, right? But I know that my stretching and my balance could be so much better. And so that's why I set up this appointment at the stretch lab yesterday, right? And it was just interesting because as I was being stretched out, there were parts where I was like, yep, I know, right? Like I could do better at this if I even if I did 10 minutes of stretching at the end of the day before I went to bed, which now that I'm saying that out loud will probably start to be integrated, right? I know that I can increase my flexibility, my mobility, and ultimately my recovery post workouts, right? And again, there is always room for improvement. However, there is this balance, and I talk about finding this balance a lot. Now, I don't mean balance as in an equal scale, right? Because realistically, if you put things on a scale, right, one of those old scales where, you would balance it out kind of a thing, right? One side of that balance could be, Legos and cups and pens and papers and all this other stuff. And the other side that is the same weight, the same balance could consist of flowers and pieces of wood and some dirt and some rocks, right? And so it's about finding the balance between these things of being content where you are, but also wanting to continuously grow. So I am very content where we are. I'm in a great space this year. I love this year. This year is going to be incredible. There are so many opportunities that have already opened up themselves for me in just the short 8 weeks of this year, right? And I could just stay here and be content here. But I know that I actually want to continue to stretch myself, to go to the next level, to do better than I'm currently doing. And so I know that that's going to take some dedication, getting really crystal clear as to what's important to me, right? Those priorities, my health and nutrition, absolute priority. And when I was checking out yesterday at the stretch lab, they said, okay, this was your introductory stretch. How do you feel about a membership? And walked me through kind of those membership things. And just so you know, I am real honest with people about this. So I said, listen, I really loved this stretch. However, I do have a new kind of endeavor that I'm taking over in the next couple of weeks, and I don't want to overcommit myself. So what I want to do is sign up for a shorter session, right? To see how it benefits me and how I can begin to work that into my current schedule and then potentially get a membership there. Because what happens is we overcommit in the moment. We're like, oh, we tried this thing, we love it. And then we have 7,000 things on our plate that we can't actually get to all of the time, right? In reality, I would love to go to the stretch lab at least once a week. Right now, if I committed to that, I would feel overwhelmed by it because I don't know exactly where it would fit into my schedule moving forward. Now, after I have a couple more weeks into this new process, probably by the end of March, I'll have a better idea of where I can fit that in without feeling overwhelmed. And this is what I do constantly. If I say, okay, hey, I'm going to take this on, or I'm interested in doing this, right? Another thing that I really want to get back into this year is riding again. If you followed me for, some time on social media, a couple of years ago, we had a horse and I was at the barn 3, 4, 5 days a week riding, and I loved it, and it fit into my schedule at that time. And right now I can't imagine trying to spend 4 or 5 days a week, a couple hours at a time at the barn. It's not a priority for me right now. Do I want to get back into it? Yes. I just have to figure out where it's going to fit before I commit to it. Okay. But so often, many of us will commit and then try to figure out where it's going to fit in. And that doesn't help anybody. And it just creates more overwhelm. And so when you sit down, right, we're now a couple of months into the year, your New Year's resolutions are probably a bust. Maybe you didn't even do them, and you're like me, who you're like, okay, I'm going to make some finer tweaks throughout the year, like each month focus on something else kind of a thing. That's what I really love to do. is each month incorporate something new as opposed to overhauling everything at the first part of the year. So as we move into this, right, I'm now reevaluating, right? Especially now that we're at the end of February. I like to take some time at the end of the month and say, okay, now that we're through February, what things have worked, what things haven't worked, and what things can I do differently moving forward? And one thing that's worked really well, right? And you know this if you've listened to previous episodes, I want to be able to do 50 push-ups consecutively by the end of the year. That's my goal, is 50 push-ups consecutively. Now, I could probably try to figure that out and be able to do it now, but what I wanted to do was something that was maintainable throughout the year. And so each week, full week, I have been adding one additional push-up each week. And I do these push-ups daily. They are daily push-ups that I do. So right now I am at 8 push-ups a day. And I'm going to tell you what, at 5 push-ups, when I was doing 5, I was like, there's no way I'm going to get to 50. But just being a couple of days into 8 push-ups, I'm really excited about being able to crank out 50 of these. I don't know why this is a goal of mine. I just thought it would be cool to do, and quite frankly, it's just really kind of fun to build up that trust with myself where I'm saying, okay, I'm doing 8 push-ups a day, 9 push-ups a day next week, 10 push-ups a day the week after that, right? And it's just kind of snowballing, and it's fun because I am doing better every single week, right? Now, the first day when I add in that new push-up Monday morning, that new push-up feels tough. I'm not gonna lie. Going from 7 to 8, I was like, oh, this 8th one is kind of gonna hurt, right? But it's these small incremental changes that actually create the result that you want. And I was just talking with a client about it yesterday, right? Really struggling through her dissertation, and she wanted to pull the plug. She texted me yesterday and she was like, I think I'm gonna quit. That's it, I'm done. And I said, okay. I said, I can appreciate where you're coming from. I said, but in 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now, I said, 5 years from now, are you going to be okay that you didn't finish this dissertation and ultimately your doctorate degree? Or do you want to be proud of yourself for pushing through the excuses and completing it? And she said, I want to be proud. I said, okay. So then let's do that, right? And it's about slowing down enough to give yourself permission with where you are and be willing to push to that next level, right? But so oftentimes we just get so stuck in our day to day that we don't actually explore anything beyond it, right? This reminds me of when we lived in Sicily. We lived in Sicily for 3 years, and it was beautiful, incredible. My oldest daughter was born there. My son was about 2.5 when we got there. And I remember our first couple of weeks, we lived in Navy lodging on base, and we met this other family there. Their kids were a little bit older, but it was just great conversation. They ultimately became essentially our adopted family in Sicily. My husband actually got to go see them in the end of last year, which was really cool. I would love to be able to see them as well, but nevertheless, one thing that they said to us was, okay, hey, you're going to be here for 3 years. We've done this tour before, right? They had done an overseas duty station before, and they said what you want to do, because you have 3 years, you want to figure out where you want to go each year. They said what we did was our first year we toured mainland Sicily, right, the island of Sicily, and then the second year we toured, Italy itself, and then the third year we did a bit more exploration throughout Europe, and we loved that and we adopted it. And so our first year in Sicily, we explored many different cities on the island. We would do an overnight or a long weekend or whatever it was in several different places throughout the island. So we actually got to see quite a bit. And then our second year, we did a 10-day driving trip where we put our car on a ferry and took it to mainland Italy. It actually got to, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget the name of that city. Naples. Okay, we took the ferry to Naples, and from Naples we drove to several different cities in Italy, spent an overnight here, a couple of nights over there. We did a couple nights in Rome. We visited Florence. We didn't do an overnight there, but we did a couple of nights near Venice, like all these things, right? And then our third year, we did Spain and England and France and Germany, and then we did a Mediterranean cruise. And so we really saw all of these places because we had mapped it out, right? We had made a plan in advance, but there were so many people that we knew that got stuck in what we called the triangle. And in Sicily, where the base is, there is the main base, and then there's kind of an outpost base, and then there's the housing base. And so it's not an actual triangle, but it's 3 different points, and so we called it the triangle. And people would get stuck in that triangle where they go from work to the grocery store to home, to work to the grocery store to home, that many of the people we knew never actually saw Europe. And it was right there outside their doorsteps. And we had a family that we were close with. The only place they ever traveled to was Rome. And we thought, wow, that's kind of like, I wonder if they'll ever regret that they only went to Rome instead of making it a priority to visit when they were already so close to all of these things anyways, right? And so that tends to be what happens in our life, is we get stuck in kind of our own little triangle, doing our own little thing, that we don't ever actually grow or experience anything beyond that. And I don't like those times, right? Like, I feel like I'm in a funk if I spend a couple of weeks kind of in that. Now, I do love my routines because they help me to create space and be more efficient and effective in certain things, right? I love routine, right? However, my routines allow for space and newness, right? So this morning I had a laundry list of things that needed to get done today. And as I was looking at it, I was like, okay, I could probably bust all of this out in a couple of hours. Let me do it first thing in the morning while it's still chilly out so that I can hang out outside when it actually warms up, right? That was my goal. And as I was moving through these things, I was like, you know what? This is really great. Like, this routine's actually giving me a whole bunch of freedom. And not only that, I'm being incredibly effective and efficient. And that's actually what this next podcast episode is going to be about. So I'm not going to dive into that too much right now. But I just want to challenge you. If you feel like you're stuck, it's probably because you're not giving yourself the opportunity to do something different. You haven't made a plan and executed it to do better, right? This is the only life you get. And as I say to my kids regularly, go out and do main character shit, right? Like, why are you sitting there watching a show? 5 years from now, are you going to be concerned that you finished binge watching your show? Or are you going to be concerned with the fact that you became an awesome soccer player or a golfer, or, you learned a new skill or something, right? Like, what are you going to be proud about 5 years from now? Because right now, in this moment, that TV show really doesn't matter, right? So, before I head off on another rabbit trail, I will sign off here. Check me out on the next episode. We're going to talk about some systems in order to create that efficiency. I was going to talk about something else, but this is coming through stronger, so we're going to dive into that a little bit more on the next episode. But I am sending you so much love. And if you have questions about this, if you're looking to become more efficient and effective in your life, your business, let me help. This is my wheelhouse. This is where I hang out. Simple shifts can create the biggest changes. And it's not that the breakthrough is the easy part. It's the integration of the breakthrough that is the struggle, where you actually have to apply it and make it and become integrated into your own life, right? We all know the thing that we could work on, but it's integrating it and making it real that many of us struggle with. So If you need help with this, please reach out to me. I would love to support you in this. And if you did enjoy this episode, I would love if you would share it on Instagram or social media, tag me in it, let me know you enjoy it. The more people that we can get these eyes on, the more people that hear this, I just love these conversations. So I hope that you have a great rest of your day. And as always, be you, because the world needs more of you. Bye.